All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, in somewhat of a surprise move today, the New York Jets decided to bench starting quarterback Zach Wilson. The move comes after Wilson created some controversy in his post-game press conference following Sunday's loss to the New England Patriots, where Wilson was pressed about the team's offense that only produced 2 yards in the second half of the 10-3 loss. Now, many members of the media in the New York area, as well as some shock jocks and fans alike, were calling for the Jets to bench Wilson as they ultimately decided to do today. Now, Mike White will be the starting quarterback for the Jets when they host the Chicago Bears on Sunday, while veteran Joe Flacco will be the backup. And in the case of Wilson, he will be inactive or basically a healthy scratch. Now, of course, one question that you have to ask yourself is, have the Jets given up on Wilson? He's 8 and 12 as a starter in the NFL, a 55.6 completion percentage, 13 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. And honestly, Wilson has not played great, and I'll be the first one to say that. But at the end of the day, all of this is not on Zach Wilson. I feel that the Jets put Wilson out there too early. And I've said this for the longest time, and it's not just Zach Wilson, it's all of these young quarterbacks. Unless you have a quarterback that is the real deal, you don't need to go out there and put him out there right away. Get a veteran quarterback, a quality veteran quarterback, not only who can take this youngster under his wing and show him the ins and outs, but also somebody who could at least go out there and play half the season for you and allow this guy to go out there and at least see the game and try to figure it out from there and then ultimately get on the field. I know that with the new rookie pay scale, teams want to go out there and see what a player has quicker. But just because you take a guy in the first round doesn't mean that he's ready to go out there and especially at the quarterback position and be successful right away in the NFL. It works for some, it doesn't work for others. And in doing so, you could ruin a kid, especially when you're having somebody go out there and play and they're not on a good team. Remember, the Jets really were not a good offensive team last year, and they still are not the best offensive team this year. For me, also, I would have loved to have seen Joe Flacco go out there and play a little bit more last season. They had Joe Flacco on the team, but Flacco only started one game. Honestly, what was there that you could not have gone out there and at least given Flacco 5 or 6 weeks while this kid got ready? Even you look at Patrick Mahomes, as good as Patrick Mahomes is now, he didn't start right away. You had Alex Smith, and honestly, we all saw the writing on the wall when Kansas City traded up to get Mahomes that year in the first round of the draft. But Mahomes sat for the majority of that year. And granted, you have Andy Reid, who has been known throughout his coaching career as far as developing and mentoring young quarterbacks. That's what you need if you're going to go out there and draft a kid so high and put all of these expectations on him. You have to put the pieces around him from coaches and player personnel. You look at it right now with the Jets. I mean, the expectations I really think changed for this team. And because of that, it changed for Zach Wilson. You look at it, this defense is the real deal. You're talking about their sixth in yards allowed this season. And the Jets have some playmakers on that team, on that side of the ball that know how to get after players. You think about Quinnen Williams and company on that defensive line. Sauce Gardner at cornerback is the real deal. Probably going to be defensive rookie of the year. And the future is very bright for that young man. So obviously, that defense has really changed things because they're showing that, hey, you know what? We have what it takes to win now. And honestly, that defense put the clamps on the Patriots offense this past Sunday, kept them out of the end zone. I know New England had a couple of missed field goals in that contest nonetheless, but still, you only held them to 3 points. And obviously, they lost on that walk-off punt return. The injury to Brees Hall has definitely hurt this offense. He's out for the year with an ACL injury. You saw this young man was tearing it up at running back, but nonetheless, even with that, the Jets still have one of the worst offenses in the NFL. And honestly, I'm not going to say that Zach Wilson is blameless in all of this because you look at the Jets this season in the games that Wilson has played, you really can't go back and say, hey, the Jets won that game because of Zach Wilson. He has not shown that ability to go out there and consistently get it done. We saw him, the first time around against New England this year, 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He didn't throw any interceptions on Sunday in the loss to the Patriots. Very easily could have thrown 2 or 3 pick sixes in that game if the Patriots DBs caught the football. So that 10-3 loss could have been a lot worse for the Jets. But even with that said, I still expected Wilson to get the game against the Bears because the Bears have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And we've seen Wilson bounce back. Not saying that he's going to go out there and put up a Dan Marino, Joe Montana type performance. No, but he has shown the ability to bounce back and play better. If they were going to bench Wilson and meaning the Jets, I would have expected them to do it Monday. They really deliberated on this and waited until Wednesday, which I felt was a little weird. He did not have a great game Sunday, just 9 of 22 passing for 77 yards. And for me, again, his comments after the game really didn't win over a lot of people, fans, of course, probably players as well in the locker room. But nonetheless, this is a decision that the Jets made. For me, did the Jets panic and listen to the media on this? I don't know. There's a possibility of that, but I'm not sure. But with that said, I really feel that if they were going to do this move, the move should have been made on Monday as opposed to today. But the problem is this: you took this guy second overall in 2021, so you have to stick with him. On top of that, Mike White is not the future at quarterback for the Jets. So it's Zach Wilson. Now, you're hearing stuff from Robert Saleh, the Jets head coach. He's just calling this a reset. He's also saying that the quarterback's fundamentals are out of whack. He also said just a few things in his game right now that will continue to deteriorate if we just keep throwing him out there. On top of that, Jets offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur talked about Wilson's footwork. So for me, at this state of the game, we're in late November, and you have a team that is in playoff contention. You can't go back to Zach Wilson at this point of the season unless Mike White gets hurt, unless Joe Flacco gets hurt, because what you're talking about, the issues that he has, those are things that are not correctable very quickly. You need an off season. You need OTAs. You need training camp to go out there and get these things done. Zach Wilson's footwork is not going to get better in 10 days. Zach Wilson's ability out there or the things that they're talking about are out of whack right now are not going to get better in the next 10 or 14 days. That's what an off season is for. That's what the ins and outs as far as breaking things down with a quarterback coach and an offensive coordinator and a quarterback guru. Those are where those things come into play, not right now. Again, this is why you don't throw a young quarterback out there immediately. You got to make sure that this guy is the real deal, especially if you're taking him second overall in the draft like the Jets did. Remember, they missed and whiffed on Sam Darnold. And again, I'm not putting all of that on Sam Darnold because the Jets didn't do right completely by Darnold. And I'm not saying that Zach Wilson is blameless on this, but I'm not letting the Jets escape from this scot-free without blame either. And for me, it's one of those where if you're going to go with Mike White now, you got to stick with Mike White for the rest of the season. You cannot play musical chairs at quarterback. That's the most important position on the football field. You can't go back and forth. It's going to throw the quarterbacks out of whack and it's going to throw the rest of the team out of whack. So at the end of the day, you ask yourself, does Zach Wilson have a future with the Jets? Yes, but his future is not on as sturdy ground as it was maybe 2 or 3 months ago, which means that the next couple of months, and forget about the rest of the season. I'm talking about the off season. So we're going to say January to April or May. These are the most important months of Zach Wilson's football career because if he cannot show the Jets that he can take the next step as a quarterback, they're not going to go out there and draft another quarterback in the 2023 draft. I don't think so. They'll probably go out there and see what's on the market for a veteran. But if he cannot show that he can take his game to the next level, if he cannot show that he can be a leader, then you know what? They might look at cutting bait with him sooner rather than later. But again, I blame this on the Jets because again, if you're talking about 20 games in, less than 2 seasons in that you're doing this, obviously you didn't do your homework on this kid because again, it's not just coming to the NFL. It's coming to the NFL and the New York area. And it's a little bit different when you have to come to the New York area. You got to deal with the media, you got to deal with the fans. You have to have extremely thick skin to go out there and get it done. You got to be able to let it slide off your back and keep it moving and go back out there and try it again. I feel that the Jets did not, repeat, did not do their due diligence on this. So again, I'm not going to put all of the blame on Zach Wilson at the end of the day. What happens, this is going to be an interesting tale because if Mike White goes out there and plays well and gets the Jets to a playoff and helps the Jets win a playoff game, well, you know what? Game on. If not, obviously it makes it easier for you to go back to Zach Wilson next season. But honestly, the timing of this was extremely bad. But again, I blame the Jets as much as Zach Wilson. So let's see how things turn out going forward for all parties involved for Gang Green. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.